Welcome back, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here for another explainer. Today, we're zooming in on a single, monumental event that completely transformed human connection. We're going to dive into the exact moment that forever changed how humanity communicates. Yep, the very first cellular phone call.
Okay, let's set the scene. The date is April 3, 1973. Picture a bustling sidewalk right on 6th Avenue in New York City. Martin Cooper, who's an engineer and general manager at Motorola, is just walking down the street holding this massive, strange-looking device to his ear. Bystanders are literally staring at him in complete bewilderment. He's holding a prototype, and he is about to make history.
But Cooper wasn't just calling any random person, right? He was calling Joel Engel, the director of research and development over at Bell Labs. Now, Bell Labs and Motorola were locked in this fierce race to develop mobile communication. So, this very first call wasn't just a quick test. It was a direct, triumphant taunt to his biggest competitor.
And you've got to realize what Cooper was actually holding during this historic taunt. It weighed 1.1 kilograms. That's about 2.5 pounds. Contrast that with the incredibly thin, lightweight devices we just slip into our pockets today. Holding this early prototype was basically the equivalent of holding a bag of flour up to your head just to make a quick phone call.
Let's break down some of the rudimentary limitations of this early device, because they're pretty wild. It required 10 agonizing hours to fully recharge, and all that just to give you 30 minutes of battery life. Oh, and it could only store a grand total of 30 phone numbers. But honestly, as Cooper himself has playfully noted, that 30-minute battery life really wasn't an issue at all. Why? Because the phone was way too heavy to hold up to your ear for that long anyway.
Section 1. The Pre-Cellular Era. What came before?
So before that historic 1973 moment, what did mobile communication actually look like? Well, in what we call the 0G era, mobile radio telephones were massive. To put it in perspective, a 1956 Swedish system literally weighed 40 kilograms and still used vacuum tubes. They were totally vehicle-bound, often operator-assisted, and severely limited by available radio spectrum. A single radio channel meant only one person could talk at a time in a massive geographic area. 1G stepped in and changed all of that by making things handheld, automated, and vastly increasing the capacity.
Section 2. Inventing the cell network.
Now, we can't just talk about the phone itself. We really have to give credit to the unsung heroes at Bell Labs. Let's demystify the jargon for a second. A cellular network essentially divides a large geographic area into a matrix of smaller zones, or cells. Each of these cells has its own low-power transmitter. This brilliant concept was actually proposed way back in 1947 by Bell Labs engineers Douglas H. Ring and W. Ray Young. Because the transmitters are low power, the exact same radio frequencies can be reused in non-adjacent cells. That completely solved the crippling capacity limits we saw in 0G.
It's fascinating how a theoretical idea took decades of engineering to become a reality. Bell Labs proposes the idea in 1947, sure, but the technology to actually make it work simply didn't exist yet. It wasn't until 1972 that a crucial piece of the puzzle was finally solved, setting the stage for Cooper's famous call just 1 year later in 1973.
And here is that absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle. It was the 1972 handover breakthrough, patented by Bell Labs engineer Amos E. Joel Jr. His patent, number 3663762 if you're keeping track, allowed a switching center to detect when a moving caller left one cell and entered another. It would automatically transfer the call path without dropping it. This unseen, highly complex system essentially birthed the modern, practical cell phone business.
Section 3. The first generation, or 1G.
So armed with the phone prototype from Motorola and the network architecture from Bell Labs, we enter this fascinating global race to launch commercial 1G. Japan's NTT actually fired up the world's first full-scale commercial system in 1979. The Nordic countries followed right behind in 1981 with NMT, which brilliantly introduced international roaming for the first time. The US finally launched AMPS in 1983, and the UK introduced TAX in 1985. It was literally a rapid, worldwide technological awakening. The really crucial point to understand about the technology powering these 1G networks is FDMA. It was completely analog, and it assigned a discrete, dedicated radio frequency to a single user for their entire call. While this was a massive leap forward from 0G, it was still an incredibly inefficient use of frequency compared to the digital multiplexing standards we rely on today.
Section 4. The brick phone boom.
So you might be wondering, what did it actually take to get this technology out of the lab and into the hands of everyday consumers?
Well, it came with a massive barrier to entry, $4,000. That was the jaw-dropping retail price when the refined consumer version of Cooper's prototype, the Motorola Dynatac 8000X, finally hit the US market in 1983. And get this, adjusted for inflation, that's well over $10,000 today. Because of that incredible price tag, the brick became the ultimate 1980s status symbol. Phones like the Dynatac or the heavy Panasonic VM1 over in the UK became absolute cultural icons. I mean, if you were wealthy and powerful, you had one. They were famously flaunted by characters like Gordon Gekko in the movie Wall Street and notably utilized by comedians like Ernie Wise to make the UK's first public cell call.
Section 5. A wireless world.
So, how exactly did these expensive analog bricks pave the way for the entirely wireless world we know today? Well, the capacity issues of analog 1G directly forced the massive shift to digital 2G networks in the 1990s. That digital foundation gave birth to the 1992 IBM Simon, which is widely considered the first smartphone. It also allowed a 22-year-old engineer to send the very first SMS text message, reading simply "Merry Christmas" back in 1992. It essentially scaled an exclusive tool for thousands into an absolute lifeline for billions globally.
From Martin Cooper holding a 1.1 kilogram brick on a New York City street in 1973, we now live on a completely connected planet that literally has more cell subscriptions than human beings. The transformation is just staggering. So I'll leave you with this to ponder. If we achieved all of this in just half a century, what on earth will the next 50 years of mobile technology look like? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, and we'll see you next time.